Good morning. This is July 31st, 2025 year. Fanshawe College, ELEC 1013 network cabling. ELEC 1013, yeah, I said that. All right. Okay, so we're going to continue with the security, fire, and surveillance. We have done the security, and well, this week we're going to we'll be able to finish up on the security and surveillance systems. Where are we? All right. So as a review from the last time, the typical zone for security systems is a closed loop. And what is a zone? Right here we have zones. These are the points on the security panel that we're connecting our sensors. And each zone can be assigned to monitor certain things. Like, for example, zone 1 could be the front entrance. Zone 2 could be living room motion sensors. Zone 3 could be living room glass break detectors. Zone 4 could be, let's say, garage door, overhead door, and so on. And how we connect these things to make it closed loops, we're bringing it from whatever the zone is to common, whatever the zone is to common, whatever the zone is to common, or to that common, whichever is closer and free enough for us to connect the wires. And as I said, a typical zone for the security alarm is a closed loop, although sometimes some of the zones can be programmed to accommodate fire loop, which is going to be wired just like a fire alarm loop, and which I'm going to show you in the next couple slides. And some of the zones can be monitored 24/7, which means it doesn't matter whether alarm is armed or disarmed. If something triggers on that zone, the alarm is going to go into whatever condition is required to. Like, for example, if we have a smoke detector on the zone, then of course we don't want that thing to work only when the fire security alarm is armed. We want that thing to be triggering 24/7 because it's considered a fire alarm, fire kind of a zone. Or water detection if there's a water spill, or some of the sump pump detection. So they're the sump pumps. What is sump pump? A sump pump is a pump that pumps out the water in the basement. If the water in that little kind of a well, the underground waters, they reach certain level, and it's supposed to pump the water out so the basement doesn't get flooded. And if, for example, if that thing malfunctions, if the pump malfunctions, the water is going to reach a certain level that is higher than it should be, so the sensor can let us know that that is what's happening. Okay, so there are also something that's called end-of-line resistors. So as a review, quickly, where's my board? Yeah. The zone, let's say there is that zone terminal, and here's the common. Here's zone X. It could be zone anything, okay? 1, 2, 3, or whatever. So end-of-line resistor is needed, and of line resistor, all right? It's needed for that zone to see that certain type of resistance, whatever is spec'd by the manufacturer, 48 kilo or something like that. Sometimes it's a common thing. So in order for the zone to be at rest, it needs to see that resistor. And then, of course, somewhere in series, we're going to have some sort of a device that is normally closed. Okay. What this gives us is an extra security protection, because if this were just a closed loop, somebody could have shorted that here. Find the wire, short that thing. So if this thing opens, then the zone is not going to react. But if it's looking for that specific type of resistance, if you short that, something's going to get noticed, that things get shorted, the system doesn't see, so somebody was tampering with it, and the system can be programmed so it can go into alarm condition when that happens, right? All right, so keep going. As far as the cabling, we get the Z wires. Z, it's a Z type of wire, straight wire, no twist. We don't want twist in it, because twist acts as a coil, as an inductor. And if the wire is long enough, if you open and close the door really fast, the signal might not get through to the zone terminal. So we want untwisted wire. And the Z4, Z6, Z8, Z12, it tells us how many conductors in that cable. But Z4 is the most popular one, particularly because, well, the size of the cable. The cable is quite thin. We need to get into different door frames and so on, and window frames. So the size of that cable matters. You want this thing to be as thin as possible, so you can pull the wires to location without obstructing any other any structure. So that's as far as security alarms. There are some links in the presentation. I'm not sure if I uploaded that thing or not. If not, I'll make sure I do this thing after this presentation. That thing, I mean this whole presentation in a PDF form onto the lecture post-it notes folder. All right, so let's go on into the fire alarm section here. Now, for fire alarm, you need extra licensing. So when you're studying the electrical code in your class, there is another book that is just as thick that is called a fire code. So just like studying the electrical devices and procedures and circuits and so on, there are numerous and strict guidelines as to according to which fire alarms should be installed, inspected, maintained. All right. So here's the typical simple fire alarm, kind of like a concept diagram. The sensors for the fire alarm are, as far as classifications, are much simpler than the security alarms. Because with the security alarms, you get motion sensors, you get dark contacts, you get glass break detectors, seismic detectors, water level detectors, and whatever else somebody can imagine and produce detectors. With the fire alarm, we distinguish smoke detectors, heat detectors, and manual pull stations. That's pretty much it. Now, the smoke detectors can sub-classify into different ones. Like, for example, there could be just a regular smoke detector that you mount in the ceiling, and could be self-powered, but for the most part is going to be powered by the grid, electrical grid, or powered by the fire alarm panel. There are smoke detectors that are mounted in the air ducts. So if there is any smoke in the air ducts that is not supposed to be, and well, the smoke is not supposed to be in the air supply ducts, then of course those smoke detectors can detect the smoke like that. There are heat detectors that sometimes it is more sensible or more, it makes more sense to install a heat detector than a smoke detector. Like for example, in the boiler room, when there's a fire, there's heat first and then smoke. So well, and sometimes people do double protection. They would install heat detectors and smoke detectors. All right. So in that panel here, we also see the annunciators, and there are rules and regulations as to which there's supposed to be a certain noise level, certain power level for the noise to be made by the annunciator when the fire alarm goes off or fire alarm triggers into a fire condition. And then, of course, there are strobe lights. So, comparing to the security alarms, you can have a noisemaker, which is a siren. You can have a strobe light, which is a strobe light. You can have both siren and a strobe light, or you can have a silent alarm. Right? Now, when it comes to fire alarm, you have to have the annunciator that has the it's supposed to produce certain type of noise, and it's supposed to do the strobe light flashing. Okay? In addition to fire alarms, and this is not a part of fire alarm, however, it's part of the building code or building regulations in the commercial facilities. We need, aside from having a fire alarm, and it goes by the bylaws, by the city or by the region that you're in. Like for example, Ontario, Alberta, or maybe a different country. Oh, lost my train of thought. We're talking about noisemakers. Oh yeah, there also has to be a working PA system, okay, public address system, for the public announcements. If there is any kind of hazard or condition or whatnot, it has to be announced. Some that type of communication, public address and all call, at least should be part of the abilities of the administration of the building to let people know this is not a fire alarm, this is just a drill, or something like that, or yes, this is real fire alarm. Please leave the building, or whatnot. For that, well, also goes with the other announcements. But for the safety purpose, working PA system should be in the building. And in the new modern these days, this is 2025, fire alarms, some of the annunciators also do have paging speakers that are integrated. Like in our college, for example, that's the case. Right? The fire alarm annunciators do have the noisemaker, they do have the strobe light, and they do have the speaker. So any kind of a message that's needed to be communicated to the general public within that building, it can also be communicated by voice. All right. Now, over here, we have what we have. We have a bunch of smoke detectors. We have heat detectors, and we have manual pull stations. As far as communicating, things can be communicated through the phone line or through the network or cellular communication device. As far as programming, well, you can't program those with the keypad because things are just too complex. Yes, you do need some sort of a PC to be connected in order to program the zone names, the whatever else needs to be programmed, the distribution of the sub panels and how things are connected, and all the communication parameters and whatnot. Things do have to be communicated. The the role of a fire alarm technician has changed over the years because when I was doing that stuff some years ago, we were allowed to install the security the fire alarms. And within the last few years, about 10 years or well, maybe longer because time goes fast. Mm, a person with electrical license needs to do the installation. The fire technician has different roles. They can recommend, they can set things up, but certain things physically they're not allowed to do without electrical license. Right? That's just how it works in our area here. I mean, like Ontario, Canada. Right? Uh, what other roles would be associated with the fire alarm technician? There is a lot to do. Annual inspections. Every building that has a fire alarm, and every building has to have a fire alarm as far as the commercial buildings, they need to have annual inspection, and it's a very thorough inspection that involves two people. It involves the technician with the fire alarm license uh, and somebody who can serve as a helper, and usually those people are called a resetter. That's a person who sits at the or stands at the panel right here and presses the reset button. So that's why we call them resetter. And that could be anyone. It could be a girlfriend, could be a boyfriend, could be a neighbor. The role of that person is to stand here while the technician during the annual inspection goes and triggers every single device that there is. And in the meantime, while they do that, they see maybe there were some changes, maybe there were some rooms that were added, maybe some devices need some correction, or maybe some devices need to be added. They look in every closet of every room to make sure that the building is fire protected. And when they see the device, they will trigger that. Now, some of the devices can be triggered by pressing a button, like those heat detectors. They do have buttons to be pressed, like a test button. If there are smoke detectors, they can blow some smoke on it, and there's something that's called smoke in a can. It's just like a deodorant type of can. But it's called smoke in a can, and it's being sold in fire alarm supply stores. So they would just blow some of that smoke onto the smoke detector and make sure that this smoke detector triggers. And it's, of course, before the annual inspection, the monitoring station has to be notified that, yes, you're going to see a bunch of triggers, bunch of signals. Please ignore them for the next, let's say, 2 hours, because we're doing annual inspection. So if you don't contact the monitoring station, then if you start triggering devices, you're going to see fire trucks at your door, right? So that's important to contact. And the person who's standing the resetter with some communications, it could be walkie-talkies, it could be by cell phone, and a constant communication. Okay, I've triggered a device. What does it show on the panel? So communicate. Yeah, it shows east hallway smoke or something like that. Okay, press the reset button, and then I'm going to trigger the next device, and so on and so on. Other duties that have to do with other kind of like a department, if you may say that, if I may say that, that is associated with fire alarms, is the fire extinguishers. Right? Fire extinguishers should be placed in every commercial building, and there are also rules and regulations on how those extinguishers should be placed, where they should be placed, and what type and size of extinguishers should be placed in any kind of commercial space, depending on the purpose of the space and what it actually is. Like, for example, in a regular hallway, just a regular, like a school setting or a hospital, those fire extinguishers should be something that's called the ABC. So ABC kind of a powder, powder type of A, powder type of B, powder type of C are designed to extinguish certain type of fires, like a gasoline fire or some other. So ABC are not those are the powder fire extinguishers. No, they are not designed to extinguish gasoline fire, but some other fires. Now, if it comes to ceiling space where there's lots of insulation and lots of dust and so on, of course, the dry powder extinguishers will put out the fire for a little bit, and the fire can reignite. So, wet fire extinguishers have to be applied, like for example, filled with water. Okay. Now, when it comes to gas stations, uh, you can't extinguish gas fire with water because you're just going to make things worse. The ABC powder is not going to be as effective as it should be. So just the CO2 dry, it just the bottle is filled with the CO2, carbon dioxide, and you blow that on the gas fire, depriving that of oxygen, and that's how you put out the gas fire. So depending on the situation, the fire extinguishers should be chosen of the proper type, proper size, and proper placement has to be also satisfied. So as far as the fire extinguishers, there are also, as I say, rules and regulations on how many times a year they should be inspected by the client, and there is going to be a certain type of label or a sticker or yeah, label, kind of like a piece of paper there with place to write a date and the signature of person who has inspected that monthly. All right. Now, when it comes to inspecting fire extinguishers, there's one crucial thing. Inspection of the fire extinguisher should be the fire extinguisher should be taken out. It should be inspected. It should be physically removed from that, or is it hanger or a cavity in the wall, and should be inspected for certain physical damage. Is the hose okay? Is the valve okay? Is the pressure good? Is there any physical damage, dents, rust signs, or whatnot? The general, just a visual inspection. Then the fire extinguisher, which a lot of people do not remember to do, and they think that they're inspecting the fire extinguisher. It should be flipped upside down, shaken, but not hit with any rubber mallet, just shaken. Because the powder that is there, if it's not moved once a month, it can solidify. And when it solidifies, you try to use the fire extinguisher, you're just going to blow some pressure, some air, and the powder is going to be solidified. It's not going to come out. So it should be flipped upside down. It should be shaken, and do not hit that thing with any rubber mallets, as some people try to be clever, because if you do that, then the powder gets into the valve that is basically on the bottom when you flip it upside down, and it can clog things up. So no, don't get too eager to don't do more than you should, right? But you should do enough. And a lot of people do not remember do the flipping upside down and shaking, just to loosen the powder, making sure that the powder is intact. All right. Now, when it comes to other devices that are associated with fire alarms, there will be remote annunciators. So there could be a main panel, and if the building is huge enough or large enough, then once in a while those just annunciator panels. So when you hear the alarm system going off or triggering, then you can go to the nearest either main panel or annunciator panel just to see what the problem is. Right? You know, so it could be just a trouble condition, or it could be fire. But chances are that before you find, as a general public, before you find that annunciator panel near you, there will probably be announcement through the PA system, what's going on. And there's some relays that can trigger other things, like shutting down the water supplies, shutting down gas supplies, or whatever, based on the fire alarm triggering. So there are all kinds of different interfaces that can be interfaced with the with the main panel. As far as the type of a zone, remember this picture right here? That's security alarm, and it's, for the most part, is looking for a closed loop. Now, when it comes to fire alarm, it just goes the other way. it is looking for an open loop, but not only open loop, it is looking for an end-of-line resistor. And the end-of-line resistor should be on the end of line. So if you run the wire to one smoke detector and another smoke detector, and so on, and so on, and then at the very end of that run, there should be an end-of-line resistor because it says end-of-line resistor. Some people would be tempted to install that right here just to satisfy the zone expectations as far as seeing that resistor. What's the purpose of this end-of-line resistor? If you look at this fire alarm triggers or sensors, as opposed to normally closed for the security alarm, these are normally open. So when that thing is installed, the system doesn't see it, whether it's there or not. Only the system is going to see when something triggers and making a dead clear, creating a dead short, which is going to be, it's going to close the loop, creating a dead short. Otherwise, the system doesn't see it. It has to see something, because if there were no end-of-line resistors or end-of-line resistor, if the line gets broken somewhere here, it could be some construction being done or some whatever, for whatever reason, then the system would never know that these devices past that point are not going to work. When they trigger, because there's a break here, that signal of the dead closure is not going to make it to the zone. So that's why we have the end-of-line resistors. So when the end-of-line resistor is installed, the system here is going to be at ease because it's going to see the resistance of the end-of-line resistor. And if anywhere before the end-of-line resistor, anywhere the line gets broken for whatever reason, the system is going to notice that right away. And it's not going to go into the fire alarm condition. It is going to trigger into something that's called a trouble condition. And trouble condition is not a fire alarm, it's a trouble condition, saying that there is something went wrong with the installation. And it's going to announce itself with a series of annoying beeps constantly. Just like that. So of course, whoever is there are going to say, okay, where are the beeps coming from? Oh, it's for the fire alarm. From the fire alarm. Okay, it says trouble. Call so and so. That could be on the display. So of course they're going to call that number right away and say, okay, something's wrong. No. Okay, it doesn't mean there's a fire. Doesn't mean there's not a fire. But something is wrong. Let us come over. We'll see what's going on. Usually it's a broken wire or some kind of a ground problem there, right? I was working in an armored car once. Buddy threw his lunch bag behind his seat. Fire extinguisher didn't have the. We drove off, and the cabin slowly started spewing the smoke with probably the yellow powder. By the time we got to the light, was coming out of the vents. Yeah, we thought, yeah. Yeah, sometimes when you work over the years, you will have some interesting stories to tell your grandchildren. Yes, those pins. Yeah. The safety pin that is preventing a fire extinguisher from accidental discharge, it has to be intact. Okay, that's part of the inspection, right? Yeah. When I was working for one of the companies, but I was being put on the recharging station. So I was receiving all the fire extinguishers, inspecting them for any damage, and depending on the timestamp, some of them had to be just emptied and refilled, and the valves and everything else just replaced based on the need and the law regulations. and some of them, I think it's been a long time, but I think it was every 6 years they had to undergo the pressure test. So you would put that fire extinguisher inside a water tank, but before that you would have to apply a high pressure hose to it, and you apply high pressure to see if that thing is going to withstand. And putting this thing in the water tank is that if this thing blows up, the water is going to take the hit, not you. Yeah, there are certain things that need to be watched for. And yes, when filling up with the, well, for example, the ABC powder, sometimes the valve wasn't closed properly. Well, things happen. Or sometimes when you pick up the extinguisher, you would accidentally discharge that. Because when we were discharging that, it would just go into a designated so-called bag. That's where the used powder. But sometimes you wouldn't not mount that nozzle properly, and it doesn't take much. The whole room would be filled with the yellow powder. Yeah. So the fire alarm contact points zone, they are normally open when they trigger. Boom. So in this case, if you are installing a security alarm, all right, and if you decide to connect a smoke detector, then it becomes just like a fire alarm, that zone. It's not going to work like this. It will have to have an end-of-line resistor, and the smoke detector would be placed as a normally open. And of course, within the programming, you would have to let the system know that that particular zone is a fire zone. And of course, that goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways, is that, what was I going to say? Yeah, the monitoring of that zone is 24/7, unconditional, which means it doesn't matter whether the system is armed or not. If that zone triggers, all things break loose, right? Now, fire alarm, in a nutshell, sensors, what do we have? Heat, smoke, manual, pull stations. There's also those kitchen stations, which is an art and a skill to install. You would use the rigid pipes to do the lines. Like, for example, how is the kitchen system work? Because they're very popular. Yeah. Kitchen system, let's say there is a hot plate, okay, where the cooking is happening. And of course, that's the part of the kitchen. There is going to be a hood over there for the fume extraction. So it's just like an exhaust fan. But in there's going to be a sensor. There's going to be a sensor, okay? And it's going to be under tension. If the heat gets into certain temperature, that sensor is going to break. And there is a huge bottle somewhere on the wall. The bottle contains the fire extinguisher contents. And the bottle has some sort of like a trigger there. And the trigger is connected physically with that line under tension. That steel wire, like a piano wire, you can buy in the Home Depot, for example, or Rona, or other home hardware. It's under constant tension. If that tension breaks, the trigger triggers that. And that piano wire or aircraft cable or steel wire has to be installed in rigid usually half-inch pipes. So there's pipe bending involved, and there's some pulleys that are involved because the steel wire is under tension. So then the pipe threaders, using the pipe threader comes in place, and there's some other things that the whole loop is including, and there could be a manual pull station. There could be some other sensors, but usually it would be the overhead kitchen sensor over the hot plate. And there would be, from this bottle, there would be other pipes with nozzles, right? Nozzles that when that thing triggers, those contents from the bottle just come down on the hot plate and extinguish the fire. Now, if you get yourself a job in this type of field, then you will receive additional training on how this fire kitchen system works, how to install it, how to program that, because that is also, it has have a programmable panel, and that with annunciator and communication panels and so on. There are certain stages that that are happening when the fire gets extinguished. So first, there's a fire extinguishing foam that comes down to extinguish the fire, to deprive that from the oxygen, and it's timed. It's programmed to go with a certain time, within a certain time period or interval, and then when that goes, because the hot plate still can be hot, so the fire can reignite. So after that, water comes down to cool the plate down, right? So the fire doesn't reignite, and it's all sequenced and timed. So that would be also kitchen systems. I don't think I have, yeah, kitchen fire suppression here. So yeah, in a small kind of a kitchen, two people can install that within one day. That kitchen fire suppression system. We do have one that is upstairs in the cubicles in the big lab. Right? So, well, we don't have this thing filled with the contents. So when this thing triggers, it doesn't release the contents on that um, pretend hot plate. Okay. So sensors, heat, smoke, manual pull stations, annunciators, bell, siren, strobe, and of course PA system. But that will be within the interfacing. What do the fire alarms interface with? They interface with security alarm, and vice versa. Security alarm can interface with the fire alarms. With the monitoring, as far as monitoring, the fire alarms are not connected to the fire stations, same as the security alarms are not connected to the police stations. All is connected to the monitoring station, and guess what? It will be the same monitoring station that you would use for the security alarms. So depending on type of alarm, is it a security alarm or fire alarm or whatever alarm, those people who sit there, they know what to do. So it's all, some of the big companies that you see the vans and trucks. A lot of them, they don't have their own monitoring station. They all use the setup monitoring stations that already exist. You can tell it by the stickers on the doors. Pay attention to some of that. Now, the fire alarms also interface with the sprinkler systems. And the sprinkler systems is another animal, just like the kitchen fire suppression system. Sprinkler systems also are, something, there are things that needs to be installed. And it's it's just like the electrical work type of thing. There's a lot of pipe installations, maybe not so much pipe bending because the different pipes that are being used for the sprinkler systems. And the sprinkler heads are different types. The sprinkler systems are different types. Basically, what it is, if it's a wet system, you can have a wet system and you can have a dry system. What's a wet system? A wet system is that the water is present in those pipes that are connected to the sprinkler heads. And when you knock off the sprinkler head, water comes down. Not through all, just like you can see in those, crime solving movies that you knock off one sensor, one sprinkler head, and then all the sprinkler heads, trigger. No, it's just the one that you knock off is going to trigger and is going to start squirting water. Now, by saying that, there are certain special cases that you want that to happen when you knock off one, then all of them trigger. But that's not that's special cases. Okay, but it can be there are systems like that too. But normally, you knock off the one, or there's a heat sensor in that sprinkler head. Then if the heat gets to it, that thing lets go and lets out the water through it. Okay? Now, how is that? How does that work? Now, the whole system is filled with water, all the pipes filled with water, and the water is under certain pressure, and there's a pressure meter right at the head end of the sprinkler system control, kind of a control devices. When the water starts coming out of one of the sprinklers, of course, the whole pressure in the whole system is going to drop. And the meter is going to notify the annunciator. Annunciator is going to trigger maybe some things that are connected to the security alarm or the fire alarm, or it's going to have a dialer on its own, right, to dial the monitoring station. So that's how now that's a wet system. Okay, what if you want to install a sprinkler system in the parking garage that is outside? What's going to happen in the winter? The water is going to freeze in those pipes and it's going to burst those pipes. So these are dry systems. So in those pipes, there is no water present at all times. It's just the air under pressure. When something happens, things trigger and the water starts flowing through the pipes. So there will be the dry systems. And of course, the dry systems are installed in the outside installations where winter conditions can affect the state of water inside those pipes. And when it comes to the inside of the buildings where there's supposed to be normal temperature, room temperature, there's no risk of there's no hazard of freezing, the water freezing. Then of course wet systems can be installed, which means water is present at those pipes continuously, and then when something gets triggered, the water comes out right away. When the dry system gets triggered, it's going to take a few seconds for the water to start coming out to it. Yeah? Now, interfacing PA system, kitchen fire suppressions. Then I just described that, and of course, my favorite, others. All right. Now, control. How do we control the fire alarm system? Well, fire alarm panel, that's the whole brain of that, which can be programmed with the laptop, and it could be reached through the internet protocol with the remote access. That can be done as well. Electrical code in effect, fire code in effect, extra licensing involved if you're interested in that type of work. Mind you, there will be a lot of driving there and lots of post-fire inspections. So get your rubber boots and your mosquito net, because when you're inspecting when you go to inspect the post-fire conditions, of course, that's after the fire department has gone out, and by their presence, of course, there's lots of water in that building. And it's usually in the summer, it just stands there, the water is standing. There'll be millions of mosquitoes there, especially in the summer. Right? But so if you're interested in that type of stuff, let me know. I'll put you through the correct channels if you want to pursue your career when it comes to that. As far as cabling, a little bit more strict rules. The cable has to be fire alarm cable rated. So fire alarm unshielded, you can have unshielded, you can have shielded, because, well, depending on what's in the ceiling and how fragile the other equipment is, and how susceptible you want this thing to be from the outside interference. Sometimes you might have to install a shielded cable, or sometimes you might have to install armored cable. And you can also have the armored with the foil shielded. So at the end of the day, as they say, and they know what they're talking about, not just any cabling can be used within the fire alarm. There's some more strict rules than any other installations because of this is considered life-saving systems. All right, so look, it's 10:50. So next time we see each other, we're going to take a look at some of the surveillance cameras and some whatever else we can discuss, just for me to kind of give you a better idea on what this whole business that I'm teaching you here, what this whole business is all about. And within those 14 weeks, I could give you enough for you to get some idea. But trust me, just scratching the surface, because this business is just so vast and so wide that anybody can pretty much find themselves within the whole thing and make enough money to support yourself quite comfortably, really quite comfortably. All right. Okay. So that's it for today, and I will see you next time. This class I'll see in person, and that's also supplement for the Monday class, eh? Yeah, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Okay, got it. That was sort of funny and sort of not funny, so I apologize for that. But now you get the content as well. Okay, cool. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you when I see you.